Hello, hello, hello. I welcome you to our podcast that talks about the way of reliving the past and embracing the future. I know it sounds boring, but you guys know this is the only way for us to give tribute to these people who shaped us and who we are now.
Wow! But guys, isn't it interesting that we can actually look for the past and use it as a shield for the upcoming occurrences to come?
Well, you're right. But first, shouldn't we start introducing the speakers that will be totally happy and grateful to acknowledge us about the ways of us celebrating English Week and the Philippine literature in one?
Greetings, listeners. This is your speaker, Aloha in Hawaii, Aloha Laureano, joining you for this ecstatic talk show today.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. My name is Jude, Jude. Happy to talk with all of you, and I'm definitely thankful for inviting me to this podcast.
Good day, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. My name is Aliana with a single N. We welcome you to be a part of this amazing and maybe controversial talk show.
Hey there, my name's Alexa, like the one from Google. I do hope you're having a great day, though I assure you, after this, it would be a lot better.
Again, my name is Raymond Lloyd. Call me whatever you want, and I wish that you will enjoy this podcast as much as we will do.
Literaseek. How interesting. Do you guys even know what this means?
Well, from the title itself, it just basically means that we should seek, or should I say visualize, the essence of literature into today's livelihood and into society.
It's to recontextualize and to supervise the future that is gifted upon us.
Jose Rizal once said, "Our youth is the hope of the future of our nation." How can we establish this statement if this so-called hope are blinded by the inaccurate literature coming from people who made them only for their own benefit?
This is also why we must be vigilant and mindful of what we do to contribute to our society, as our actions will determine the legacy we leave behind.
When we think about legacy, we only think about our reputation. We only think about the actions that we did in the past. But do we even consider that within these small leaps in our path, we create big holes in directions that we need to enter in the future?
We should aspire to be like Francisco Balagtas, the prince of Filipino poets, who popularized not only himself, but also the Philippine literature. That's how powerful literature is, as he was able to use it to uphold social issues, human rights, and the adversities of being a Filipino.
The Philippine literature has evolved over the ages and has served as a mirror for readers ever since.
We cannot deny that it can put things into perspective and allow the reader to reflect back in time, particularly during the colonization period when the power of writing emerges.
Isn't it great that our generation was shaped by being aware of social issues and changes in Filipinos' livelihoods through these pieces?
These literary works also establish a connection with the author's thinking by learning what each word meant or symbolized.
By connecting with the author, we will be able to unpack or delve deeper into their motive for writing the piece.
There were many renowned Philippine literary authors, such as the members of Ilustrado, who used their writing abilities to expose to the world the injustice inflicted on Filipinos during the Spanish colonial period.
If we are analyzing or critiquing Philippine literature, it teaches us that one of the author's purposes is to wake up the society from systematic inequality, exclusion, and so on.
We are able to communicate with the author's mind through Philippine literature. We have the capacity to see their ideas and become one with them.
Our own literature gives us a tremendous amount of power. We acquire the ability to create, influence, and share, as well as to preserve.
Local literary works are priceless treasures that we cannot replace. They retain their value over time and continue to inspire people even today.
And as we gain a deeper understanding of them, we'll be better able to share the author's legacies and encourage our fellow Filipinos to study Philippine literature as well.
Literature, like the space stone, has the ability to allow its holder to create a portal to any location he desires.
Okay, that was a lot to take in. Let's take this time to breathe.
In,
Breathe out.
While I was scrolling through my social media, I always managed to see the word historical revisionism, which I think is indeed evident into today's society.
Controversial?
Well, it's based on how you look at it, but in our generation and their outlook on politics, yes.
but is it tolerated?
Definitely.
But jokes aside, some people who call themselves historians use their power to change everyone's belief for their own benevolent and malicious reasons. So I would not say that they're tolerated, but it's upsetting how these readers are the ones themselves who are setting an example for those who believe in false information and statements about the events and occurrences in the past. Whether it was a victorious moment for our nation or even if it was a traumatic event that has made us suffer in the past.
Speaking of how our forefathers suffered in the past, we should view literature as a privilege to ensure that it does not happen again and that future generations do not make the same mistakes we did.
Agree. So listeners know how to differentiate reliable sources from these fake news stories spreading around the internet.
Stand up and speak out about this issue. Don't let your loved ones become another victim of this epidemic that is whipping our generation.
And also, guys, I want to speak up about certain prejudices against traditional literature in today's generation.
Isn't it sad that even we, as students, see our classmates or even our environment as having the tendency to cringe and be seen as too smart to be acknowledged when we talk about literature?
But let's be realistic here. When it comes to our generation, technology has indeed dominated our community, and we should not let literature be left behind.
Let us have hope for the future, that even though they'll have a much wider range of choices when it comes to being informed, we'll still have time to connect with these literary books that help us before and have standardized our way of living or how we see things today.
This is why I am happy that Escuela de Sofia, our school, has given us the chance to talk about awareness about the importance of literature.
And not only that, but also the way that we are one of the examples that we have once proven that Philippine literature isn't just about speaking Filipino, it's about the integration of us as humans and our ability to connect with one another through the excellence of language.
Authors, instead of being ordinary people, they strive to touch as many lives as possible.
Being an example and to be an individual who have perseverance and brilliance served in an inspirational for every Filipino to do their best in attaining excellence.
Their works show that even the smallest or weakest can turn the world upside down if one has the determination in doing so. And those simple things can be turned into greatness when these ideas were critically considered and carried out correctly.
The psychological health decrease has really affected our source of Philippine literature.
Yeah, because if you think about it, when you're really mentally drained out, you can lose a lot of your motivation and interest.
On the other hand, most of us just change our interests.
While TikTok and other social media applications blew up, most of us developed a more sarcastic and brutal type of humor, letting go of our history and literature.
Well, by using TikTok and other social media apps, we can recapture their interests and attention with our literature.
Although, to do that, we should have respect and love for our literature. Most of our generation genuinely would rather read English literature.
Just like Romeo and Juliet or To Kill a Mockingbird and so on. Our generation romanticizes having this whole other culture.
Jose Rizal once said, "A person who is unable to express their love in their native language is greater than a fish with foul odor."
When we actually learn to respect and care for our language, preserving our literature, especially with our generation's privileges,
What are our privileges exactly?
Well, one being our ability to make a change, which would really aid preservation of literature.
Everyone's familiar with Dr. Jose Rizal, known for his amazing novels that left great legacies and were used as an instrument for the Filipinos to stand up for themselves and be woke to reality.
It gives freedom for the Filipinos to be aware of what to resolve and how to resolve our own local issues.
Indeed, a very effective way, as what was proven by our national hero. A beautifully written piece has this capacity to alter a person's viewpoint and inspire them to take actions to improve their lives or even their own country.
Our country is what most would call a developing country. It means we're not rich nor privileged enough to make more specific museums or any sort of landmark to develop and remember our literature.
what we can do is to find fun, creative, and resourceful ways to preserve them.
Through Congress, we can declare an annual federal holiday that celebrates our literary heritage, a day that not only highlights the past, but can also open our eyes for the future.
Although the simplest thing to do is by sharing it with others in hopes of them to do the same thing.
Well, guys, before we end our podcast, I just want to ask one simple question. Who do you relate to in terms of Philippine literature?
It is a far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far better rest I go through than I ever known. One of the most greatest code once said. I aspire to be Merlinda Bobis, a legendary writer of the Philippine literature. I relate to her as she provides her readers with a comprehensive view of growing and vibrant transnational literary culture. As a student leader myself, she serves as a strong voice that brings different individuals together, fueling the tenacity from the past that drives the realities for the future.
Literature is an evolution, for with every evolution, we get to enhance and lighten our knowledge better than before. For me, Francisco Balagtas is the person that I could relate to, because as Raymond said, he didn't aspire to be popular for his satisfaction, but also for our own country's literature. And as much as he connected powerful pieces to our homeland's issues, I would like also to raise our country's problems that we face nowadays by using what I learned from these past literatures for our new generation.
Don't tempt fate by never saying never. Never again this, never again that. For you can only never be sure of never. And that's the only thing you can be sure of. That was one of the immortal words said by Ninochka Rosca. She's a Filipina feminist. I see myself in her because she actually wants to make a change, and she's actually trying to do that.
Liwayway Arceo was a legendary Philippine literary author to whom I can relate. She created literary works that focus on the livelihood of Filipinos, and her works also describe how she empowers women, making her one of the Philippines' modernist and feminist literary authors.
Well, guys, I really want to say thank you to all of you for these powerful messages you have brought to our listeners. And I can't wait to work with you guys again.
Yeah!
Congratulations! Oh my gosh, we should totally eat out.
Again, this is Lloyd.
This is Aloha.
And this is Alexa.
This is Jude.
This is Yana.
And this is Literaseek.
This program of the Sophian Radio is exclusively published by the Paladin Society. The views and opinions of the podcast creators don't necessarily reflect the official policies and position, views and opinions of Escuela de Sofia of Caloocan Inc., its administrators, personnel, and staff, host of program and other people of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are their own opinion and not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual in anyone or anything. Fair use statement: this podcast may contain copyrighted materials, the use of which has not been specifically authorized by the copyright holders. All rights reserved 2022.